Hello, AGDQ 2020 Selection Committee. My name is tcbtrio, and I will be commentating this run of Pikmin 2 Challenge Mode All Levels. Two-player with Kap, or KapKapRevenge as he's known on Twitch. The purpose of this run is for two runners to play a co-op mode with one another, to read randomly generated layouts, or the settings that you're going to see us play on, and collect the key and exit the level as soon as possible. In this run, we do the levels out of order. However, in a marathon setting, we would be going from the first level in order all the way to the last level. That way we don't spend unnecessary time and confuse the audience. But with all that out of the way, let's get going. So we start off with Concrete Maze here, because Concrete Maze has the highest variance in terms of RNG and layouts. So we reset until we found a good Concrete Maze layout to play on. And now here, this is good because you see that I have found the key as the top screen, and I have found the exit location. I know that the exit is there from thousands and thousands of attempts at Concrete Maze. I've learned that whenever there's a gate with an empty little alcove like that, the exit will spawn there. Only one character has to be at the exit to leave the level, so I take that responsibility as Kap watches the key. So sub-level 2 of Concrete Maze is a little bit more complicated because it's larger and has more alcoves. But Kap and I will do our best to communicate with each other to do the sub-level as quickly as we can. So as we see on the drop-down, we actually had a very good layout here. And I immediately brake toward the key, but do run into a little bit of trouble because, as the name of the level, Concrete Maze, might suggest, it can be difficult to find the correct way to where you're going all the time. As we can see on the bottom screen, Kap is a little bit lost, and he's bringing his white Pikmin over to me to make the key move twice as fast to the rocket. So in a live setting, you would be hearing Kap and I communicate with one another to try to find the exit and key. On the top screen, you can see that I found the exit, so I immediately run toward the key to collect one Pikmin to break down the wall. Kap stays and watches the key with one Pikmin. As if there were to be any random bomb spawns, one Pikmin does not move fast enough to get away from the explosion. And now that the two worst sublevels in the run are over, Kap and I can take a deep breath and go and have fun with the other 29 levels. Not to say there's not a high level of variance in the other levels, but again, Concrete Maze is the worst. So, on this final sub-level, you will see, instead of a hole, a closed geyser come up when the key is collected. It is Kap and my responsibility to break the geyser using Pikmin, so we use these Queen Candy Pop buds to grow as many red Pikmin as we can. The geyser spawned very close to where Kap and I were, so I abandoned plucking to go immediately load up the geyser. After Kap's done plucking, he does the same thing. And we exit the level with a little bit of time save over our PB. Next up, you have Cryptic Cavern, which is one of the few levels that have some set layouts. And what I mean by that is the layout always generates the same. On sub-level 1, there is an enemy hidden underground that is always in the center of the far room. Because I know exactly where that doodlebug is going to appear, I'm able to long throw or throw a Pikmin while running forward, a Pikmin very precisely to flip him over before he causes too much trouble. So this next sub-level has an enemy called an Electric Dweevil. This enemy is notoriously called Shocky Boy by runners of this category. He is capable of killing the run very quickly and very mercilessly. However, having some experience fighting Shocky Boy, I'm able to take him out before he uses his electricity attack, which both white and red Pikmin are very much affected by. They will die instantly if they touch electricity. On this next level, we have an enemy called a Fiery Bulblax. Ordinarily, this enemy would be quite a challenge. However, because of our Spicy and Bitter Spray, those two purple and red images to the left of the screen, we are able to supercharge our Pikmin by using the Spicy Spray and freeze the Fiery Bulblax as a stone using the Bitter Spray, effectively making that fight free. So I should mention, the splits that you see on the left are actually not Cap and my previous PB. They were splits that I made up to shoot for a sub-hour in this category. As you can tell by our submission, we did not achieve that goal. However, we do believe it is possible if we are given more time together, which we do plan on spending some more time running this category. One thing that I should mention about Spicied Pikmin is that they have a time limit as to how long their abilities stay. When you use Spicy Spray on a Pikmin, you speed up all of their animations. That means that they do more attacks per second than they would otherwise. However, this also means that their animation for dying is sped up as well, so any statuses will affect them. However, by using a Bitter Spray, if the Pikmin is hit by the Bitter Spray, its Spicy timer will reset. You'll see Cap and I use that later on in this run to conserve Spicy Sprays for other levels. Here we have Snack Pit, where this giant bread bug will always have the key. It's our responsibility to immediately lure him over to the rocket, as that's how you do most of your damage to him. We do an excellent job, and we had an excellent spawn location, so we are able to very quickly eliminate the giant bread bug. So Cap uses one white Pikmin to get the key to the rocket right away. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of awkwardness there, not the end of the world. I run back to grab some of the Pikmin left at the rocket. A thing to note about this category is that we tend not to be overly concerned about minute details, as we are just keeping our speed and momentum going. It doesn't matter if you kill 10 Pikmin, but it matters if the key stops moving. Next up on Rumbling Grotto, we let the come-down, or when we have this nice overhead view of the sub-level, stay for a little bit, as I read where the key is located. So I immediately take the Pikmin, use that spicy spray to make this knocking down of the wall twice as quick, because I don't really like that mum that's standing there trying to kill my Pikmin. I use my bitter spray to paralyze him and eliminate that threat. So now Cap collects the key, and our mission is to knock down as many walls as we can to make sure our access to the exit can be quick. Cap had to defend the key-carrying Pikmin right there, so he was a little delayed bringing them to the wall. So, the exit spawned behind the wall I had started to knock down, so luckily we lose minimal time here, because we're just waiting for one phase of the wall to go down. Next up, we have the boss, the Pileated Snagret. This is a strategy that I invented during my grind for the one-player world record, where you use Pikmin to deal a ton of damage to him during his very, very long eating animation, and just stun him before he can go back underground. While that strategy does not seem overly complicated, it saves roughly 15 seconds over the previous world record holder's strategy, and that is significant in a category with a lot of time spent in menuing and cutscenes. Next up, we have Breeding Ground, in my opinion, the most difficult level in the run. This first sub-level, I'm very much dedicated to growing Pikmin to deal with the rest of the sub-levels, and Cap, being the helpful soul that he is, takes one Pikmin to immediately grab the key so we can go to the next level. Here you see Cap notices that there's a mum outside in the path of his key. So he spends a little bit of time making sure that mum does not become a problem for the key-carrying Pikmin. If you throw one Pikmin to engage with the mum, the mum has a very difficult time eating that Pikmin and can remain distracted for quite some time. It looks like we left a Pikmin buried, so we decided just to move on rather than lose time getting it. In Breeding Ground 2, we make a bit of a mistake there, or I should say I make a mistake there, by spicying my Pikmin before I whistled Cap's Pikmin. You'll see at the beginning of sub-levels, Cap or myself dismiss Pikmin, so the other can grab them. That's so we can conserve spicy sprays by just using one. If I use spicy spray, Cap's Pikmin do not become supercharged. The key is in a very obvious location, so as soon as this gate comes down, I can get it. Here you'll see me use bitter spray to reset my spicy counter on those Pikmin. Both Cap and I almost walked into that Bulborb on accident and woke it up, which would have effectively killed the run. But we somehow managed to avoid it, so everything turned out okay. Here's a very rare instance where, because the key did not spawn behind an alcove or a wall, the exit actually spawned in a second empty alcove. This is extremely uncommon. In my 3,000 plus attempts of running this category, I have actually never seen that before. We make the decision to use a spicy spray here. This is a very unfortunate situation, but Cap and I deal with it the best that we can. In Breeding Ground 3, there are 4 enemies that spawn, known as fiery blowhogs. One of them has the key. It's impossible to tell which one that is, so we have to do our best to kill off as many as we can as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, we did not get excellent luck here, and we did not wind up getting the key in the first blowhog each of us guessed. So our last blowhog right here obviously has the key, and again, this is extremely unfortunate luck. There's no way of telling which one possesses the key. Cap and I at this point considered resetting this run, but because it's not like Cap and I live super close to each other, it's a little difficult to find time to get together. We decide to continue this run, and luckily we did, because this run did quickly turn around to be quite impressive. I should mention that the Pikmin speedrunning community tries to meet up in real life about once every 6 months. So about once every 6 months or so, usually a new 2-player challenge mode record does pop up. So even though Cap and my goal time is under an hour, at this point in time, our personal best was a 1 hour and 2 minute flat. So although we are in the red, and quite deep in the red, we knew we had potential. And here we get very rare, but best possible RNG in Cave of Pain. This type of layout with the key spawning so close to the rocket saves roughly 30 seconds over alternative layouts where the key spawns in farther rooms. The exit spawned in the middle room here, and luckily, because there was a lot of enemies hanging out by the ship, and all of a sudden, Cap and I are right back in this run. Next up is Bully Den, where 2 enemies called Water Wraiths spawn. They are human-like water creatures that roll around on stone wheels. Using purple Pikmin, we can immobilize them, break their stone wheel, and kill the enemy. However, just like in Breeding Ground 3, the key does not spawn in a predictable water wraith. Therefore, Cap and I will have to figure out which water wraith has the key, or take on both water wraiths at once just to be safe. The water wraiths will spawn when the timer hits 270. Before that point, Cap and I take advantage of the downtime to knock down as many gates as we can. Cap discovers an empty alcove behind a gate, which means he has found the exit. So at this point, we have the areas where the water wraiths can spawn and the exit uncovered. So there's a few enemies that can spawn from the ceiling during the water wraith fights with the purple pound damage. I quickly just take a couple out to make this fight safer. Cap follows suit, but does not look like any enemies spawned in his room, including the water wraith. So, both of us deal with the water wraith very well. Even though his water wraith did take a very unpredictable turn, we're able to corner both water wraiths in one spot and use our Pikmin to attack both of them simultaneously. While this is certainly not the ideal way to fight them, it does eliminate any sort of potential drawbacks that can come from guessing which water wraith has the key incorrectly. So, The water wraith we killed first had the key, so we completely ignore this guy as he has nothing important to us. We each grab a small amount of Pikmin, supercharge them with a spicy spray, and come on over to break the exit. When you see me run away from the exit during the time we break it, that is because I am trying to slow down the game's lag time. With 2 screens having to do Pikmin animations instead of 1, the game does lag a very small amount. By me running out of the frame and deloading those Pikmin in my frame, I do reduce lag. Next up in Sniper Room, the key is out in the open, but the level is extremely dim. Cap and I each take a small portion of Pikmin and go to work immediately finding the key. And unfortunately, the key did not necessarily spawn in an ideal location that is pretty far from the exit. However, it does not seem to have very much in its way. So during its carry, Cap and I take to eliminating enemies and finding the exit location. I eliminate some enemies for the safety of the key, and Cap eliminates an enemy to expose the exit location. I dismiss my Pikmin so he can use the 1 spicy spray on the entire army. And I think right about then is when I told him, hey, I dismissed a bunch of Pikmin, you should go get them. He uses the spicy spray, and because of our ability to read the sub-level correctly, he breaks open the exit immediately. With 3 gold splits in a row, all of a sudden Cap and my mood was very much improved, and we go into Emperor's Realm. As you may guess from the name, we will be seeing the famous Pikmin enemy Emperor Bulblax on the 5th sub-level. So on the first sub-level, we are looking for a large, white, hairy Bulboard. He has the key. And it does not look like we get the spawn in Rocket area, but we get the spawn very close to it. Cap uses some purple Pikmin to quickly kill off the Bulboard, and then uses his army to take out the fire geysers to protect the Pikmin carrying the key. At this time, the exit is pretty much a random guess. It can spawn basically anywhere in the map, so Cap and I take our guesses, and it turns out that my guess was correct. Guessing correct there does save significant time because you don't have to run in a panic state to the exit. Next up, we are looking for a large bull bear. He has the key, and he is charging right into our spawn area. I slowly lure him over to Cap, who is standing locked and loaded with a couple of purple Pikmin to quickly kill him. I immediately run to the back of the layout because the exit will always spawn in the same location on this layout. On this 3rd sub-level, we have Fiery Bulblax and 3 Queen Candy Buds. The Fiery Bulblax has the key, and I immediately go to take him out. During this time, I have Cap grow an additional candy pop full of blue Pikmin. The reason that I do this is during sub-level 5, blue Pikmin become very valuable. As well as during sub-level 4, those blue Pikmin will have damage output to the Empress Bulblax. So sub-level is very basic, where the Empress Bulblax has the key. The only way to get it is by defeating her. Ordinarily, you throw Pikmin on the front of her, but if you're a very confident Pikmin 2 speedrunner, you can do a very risky strategy of bittering her during her attack animation to take down her defense and kill her before she has a chance to roll. Not only does that roll kill any Pikmin in her path, but it also takes roughly 14 seconds to carry out. That is a big time loss compared to stopping her right in her tracks. Last for this level is sub-level 5. It has 3 Emperor Bulblaxes, one of which will have the key, but just like many other situations in this run, it's impossible to know which. What you see is Cap takes some blue Pikmin to attack the Bulblaxes in the water, while I focus on the Bulblax on land with my Pikmin that cannot survive water, as you're seeing my Pikmin drown currently. However, Cap was lucky and got the key on his first guess, so I abandoned that Emperor Bulblax as it is no longer important to us, and we make a break right for the exit, as this guy's just chilling at half health for the rest of his existence. Next up we have Secret Testing Range, which is definitely a scary level. The first sub-level is very straightforward. It has 2 enemies known as Gatling Broinks, one of which has the key. Cap and I will fight one each, and we will get our key. The next sub-level has an enemy known as Man at Legs. This enemy has a gun. And yes, you did hear right, an enemy in a Pikmin game has a gun. It's very scary because that's an enemy that can easily kill an entire speedrun if it does not behave and defeat your Pikmin. Cap and I take a little bit of a hard guess, and we guessed incorrectly there, so we will be losing time as a result. But because we are very quick and we kill off the second one immediately, we can get that key moving. So, in order to save time, and also I don't feel comfortable fighting Man at Legs with the slow strats anymore, we use a little bit of a risky strat, where we use our yellow Pikmin to increase his attack animation and make him more susceptible faster. However, if this strategy is messed up, he will most likely kill off our Pikmin. So Cap spices all of our Pikmin, and takes everything except for yellows and blues. I grab the yellows and blues, so I can use the yellows to immediately start his attack animation. His attack animation has begun. Cap and I begin unloading all of our Pikmin on him. Now, right about here, I started sweating because we were disturbingly close to having him break out of that bitter spray stone thing and kill us. However, we were fast about it and got him, and we walk out of there with only minimal time loss. Next up is Abduction Den, where we are looking for a large floating purple jellyfish. That one will have the key. However, there are enemies that steal your captains, your Pikmin, and enemies that generate bombs guarding the jellyfish, making this a very hectic sub-level to say the very least. I use the bitter spray and are able to disable one of the bomb-generating enemies. However, it does look like we are going to take a punch from that bomb. There was no way of getting through that without killing off a lot of Pikmin. So we did lose a little time to that. Next up, we tried to anticipate where the exit is, and I got snatched up by one of the captain-stealing enemies before I could get my Pikmin on the geyser, but we still walk out of there with minimal time loss. In Hidden Garden, you are given 2 Bulbmin and no actual Pikmin, as you see the plethora of zeros on that screen. You are to use these Bulbmin and Queen Candy Buds to grow more Pikmin, and also to find a leaf enemy that's by itself. We call him the Lone Ranger. When the leaf enemy known as a Skritter is by himself, he will always have the key. And it looks like Cap and I quickly located him. However, these butterfly enemies do delay our progress in killing him, because every attempt to throw our Pikmin on him is thwarted by the butterflies. So this is an instance of definitely an execution error on our part. What we should have done was grown Pikmin immediately and waited for the butterflies to just leave. Unfortunately, we will suffer a time loss as a result. But we start growing Pikmin because we must break open a geyser, and that geyser has a decent amount of health. In order to spawn more Queen Candy Buds, you must have Pikmin in your army that walk under the Candy Bud. So Cap takes some Pikmin and immediately runs to the other room to try to knock down some other Candy Buds as I pluck the remaining Pikmin. We run into some success with our Candy Bud spawning, but now we have a lot of Pikmin to pluck. However, with that key traveling at a relatively slow pace, we do have ample time to pluck. Now the exit spawned fairly close to us, so we take our massive army of 42 Pikmin to break open this exit. Well, it looks like we only have 40 with us. Next up in Subterranean Lair, there are 3 bull bears that will come at you, and one of them has the key. It is completely random which bull bear has the key, and Cap and I will have to use 60 combined Pikmin and 2 bitter and spicy sprays to deal with the bull bear. I apologize for my mispronunciation. So, unfortunately, the bull bears all pretty much spawned in the back of the room, which is certainly not ideal. Cap takes out a single bull bear immediately as I lure 2 bull bears over to the rocket so the key can move a little faster into the rocket. The bull bears will walk faster than my Pikmin can carry, so it makes more sense to lure them and use their speed rather than carry speed. In 3-color training, the Gatling Groink will always have the key, but is very difficult to kill. Cap will use Louie as a decoy to lure the Groink into attacking him, while I sneak up behind the Groink and attempt to zero cycle or eliminate all of the Groink's health before he shakes my Pikmin off. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of awkwardness in this fight, and it did wind up taking quite a bit of time. What we do after this is we use our white Pikmin to try to find either buried treasure or metites in these alcoves. If neither metites nor a buried treasure spawns, we know we have found our exit. And there's a lot of death and despair going on around us, but we are out of there. Next up in Hazard Training, we experience a level with a ton of variance. The first sub-level, we will be taking out a Fiery Bulblax using red Pikmin and Bitter Spray. The second level, we will use Spicy Spray to take out an orange Bullbear. Luckily for us, we seem to have gotten a pretty darn good layout. I trust Cap to take out this Fiery Bulblax, while I stay behind to try to find an empty alcove, which will indicate an exit. Since I do not find an empty alcove, I know that there's only two possibilities for the exit spawn. Cap stands on one, I stand on the other, and we just wait to see who gets it. By knowing the locations for the exit spawns, you can save significant time in this run by never having to search after they spawn. So here, Cap takes a few more Pikmin than I do, which is good because he winds up using the spicy spray, and we double barrel throw on the orange bull bear. That kills the orange bull bear before it's able to shake off Pikmin and waste our time. As the exit will always spawn in that one particular corner, Cap and I build up a little bit of an army around it, and we wind up saving significant time. Cave of Snarls, we are looking for a withering or red blowhog, and using bitter spray to disable it from taking our flowers away from our Pikmin, making them slower and weaker, and getting the key. It looks like here we get best possible RNG, because the red blowhog, or the withering blowhog, spawns close to the rocket. Next up, Cap and I will search for empty alcoves to camp in to try to predict the exit location. Cap has found an empty alcove near the rocket. I have found one away. We both settle into our empty alcoves and hope that the exit spawns in one. Looks like it spawned in mine, and we are out of there very quickly. Sublevel 2 does have less variance, as it always will spawn this circular room. So there's never a risk of RNG taking away 10 plus seconds from you for no reason. So here we defeat the Withering Blowhog, but we do pay careful attention to the Puffy Blowhog, as I don't want him interfering with that key carry. We found the empty alcove very quickly, indicating the exit, and Cap uses our Pikmin to break open the exit. The Giant's Bath will be starring two Bloisters, one small Bloister on sublevel 1, and one large Bloister on sublevel 2. Bloisters are extremely finicky enemies that are very difficult to zero cycle. For sublevel 1, Cap and I will do our best to kill this Bloister quickly. We each take roughly half of the Pikmin and use Spicy Spray. Because we have 5 in this level, we see no harm in using 2 at once. Unfortunately, it looks like there Cap and I may have been running into each other too much, and that's something to practice. However, we do kill the Bloister in a single cycle. And I break to try to find where the exit's going to spawn. As I do not see any empty alcoves, I hang out in this corner right here, as I know that in this corner, the exit will spawn if there are no empty alcoves. I am correct, and we go to face the second Bloister. In 2-player mode, the second Bloister will tend to focus on whichever captain is closer to him. So, Cap gets in the Bloister's face and activates an attack to prevent it from shaking off the Pikmin and wasting time. Now we have a mad dash to try to find the exit, and it turns out to be in that corner room. In this next level, Cavernous Abyss, we take advantage of a trick known as charging. When a Pikmin, or more specifically, a leaf or a bud Pikmin, gets Spicy Spray, its carry speed increases to that of a flower Pikmin. However, if it loses its spicy spray or its supercharge while carrying an item, the speed will remain there because that would be difficult for the game to figure out. If you whistle the Pikmin off of the item and put more faster Pikmin on the item, it will actually maintain both the new Pikmin's speed and the old Pikmin's speed. So I use a spicy spray at the beginning of my little charge to take down the spicy spray counter. Because this is not necessarily a do-or-die situation, I do use a slower strategy, but much safer to kill off the raging longlegs. I throw 3 white Pikmin and then re-up the spicy. I take some white Pikmin to then put more speed on this key, and you can tell the key has increased speed significantly. Cap and I grab our supercharged Pikmin and head to the far corners of the stage, where the exit will spawn in one of the 2. Looks like it got my exit. And by using that supercharge, we are able to dip under 140, which is very difficult to do using the safe strat for the boss. Unfortunately, there's not many other instances in challenge mode all levels where using a supercharge actually comes into play. Next up in Dweevil's Nest, the key is right out in the open, but the challenge is dealing with all of these spiders who want nothing more than to pick up the key and steal it from us. However, Cap and I distract this one Dweevil beautifully. And now we search as best as we can for an empty alcove, as there will be the exit. In Collector's Room, there are 7 sublevels, making it the deepest challenge mode cave. However, each sublevel is very small, and only has 1 enemy each. This enemy is either a regular Bulborb, an orange Bulborb, or a hairy Bulborb. Regardless, because of their lowered health in challenge mode, we actually just use 1 or 2 white Pikmin, because they are poisonous to eat for the Bulborbs. To eat them, and they will actually die with 1 or 2 Pikmin eaten. It is significantly faster than fighting them and taking down their health all of the way. The last sublevel will have a Gatling Groink that we must save, ideally 1 spicy and 1 bitter to fight. During some of our more downtime in levels like this would be a great time to read donations or interact with the audience. I know I have many Pikmin plushies that I would be willing to bring and auction off or whatever. Now on this sublevel, because the Bulborb is actually so far away, it's faster to use bitter and spicy. And I attempted to push the Bulborb while it was bitter closer toward the rocket to save time, and I was able to push it very minimally, saving very little time. Another possible incentive could be taking away Cap and my ability to talk to each other, and we would only be able to communicate through pointing at things on the screen. believe it or not, is actually how a good deal of this communication is done during the run. Everything happens very fast, and rather than try to explain a situation, sometimes here I will just point at something at the screen and say, mine, or I'll do this, or you do this. But we don't necessarily have to talk to each other. So, we were able to save our spicy and bitter sprays for this Gatling Groink, making that fight extremely fast. And we used the remainder of our white Pikmin to break open this geyser. A 334 collector's room is incredibly fast. For Red Chasm, we run into yet another situation of many different enemies that could have the key, and there's no way of knowing. Except this time, it's just red Bulborbs, which are significantly easier to deal with than any other random key enemy. Cap and I will try to take about half of our Pikmin each, although I think I wind up with a little more than half. And we take on the various red Bulborbs located throughout the map. Unfortunately, the key did happen to spawn in a very far Bulborb, making this a little bit slower. Nobody gave Cap the memo, I guess, and he started attacking the other Bulborb. But that's okay, because we don't really care what happens to our Pikmin. Now, the exit spawns in a very confusing location, and luckily for me, I have KapKapRevenge playing, who was able to find this exit, because I was lost. It's very uncommon for it to spawn in a corner like that. Now, as we get to some of the earlier levels in the actual order, or some of the later levels in this speedrun, the levels do become simpler, but they also become more high stakes, meaning that there's not as much variance, so little mistakes can actually really hurt you. In our previous PB, Cap and I almost lost all of our Pikmin to this level by mistake. We don't plan on doing that again. So what we do here is we use our bitter spray on this green Rolly Boy, as we call them, to quickly get the key from him. In our next sub-level, we have a red Rolly Boy, which we'll use our spicy spray on. So again, it's not particularly like there's a ton going on in some of the earlier levels, but due to how much RNG or small mistakes can have an impact, it's vital that you play them well. Especially because Cap and I were, at this point, very close to sub 1 hour. So whilst the key is getting carried, I find the empty alcove, direct Cap right over there, and throw him 3 Pikmin just for the heck of it. Next up in Hot House, we only start with 3 Pikmin. We use Queen Candy Buds to grow more yellow Pikmin, as the second sublevel is dominated by electricity. In our first sublevel, we must be very careful not to lose what precious few Pikmin we have to these dwarf Bulborbs. Cap grabs a yellow Pikmin and goes right ahead to get that yellow Pikmin on the key. He will have that Pikmin carry the key, and he will protect it to the best of his ability. He does do me a favor in plucking these Pikmin here by luring that Bullbear away from where we would be plucking. Bullbears love eating Pikmin out of the air, and it would have been unfortunate to lose some by that way. I use my spicy spray to increase the Pikmin's carry speed, and Cap breaks open some nectar to get some flower Pikmin. We correctly guessed the exit location, and we are down to the second sublevel. In this second sublevel, the key always spawns in the watery blowhog. So we make a quick break to the watery blowhog. Now, it should be noted in this particular sublevel, and in every final floor, you can see the exit spawn under the stage most of the time. In this particular case, we did not see it, and there's a reason, because that is a very uncommon exit location, and we did not check. However, not seeing it in the two common exit locations should have tipped us off that something was wrong. Now we have the first level in all of Challenge Mode, known as Explorer's Cave. Explorer's Cave is very straightforward. The first sublevel has the key right out in the open, and the second sublevel requires defeating a red Bulborb. You can see the key in the come down. My only responsibility here is just to spicy these leaf Pikmin to get some better carry speed, and then Cap and I go hang out at potential exit locations. Here in sublevel 2, the Bulborb spawns in a very obvious spot. I use the bitter spray and swarm my spicy Pikmin on him to get the key. After this, Cap and I start looking in empty alcoves to see if we can see the exit underground. And it doesn't look like we can, so we know the exit's going to be in an odd location. So we stand in the middle of the stage, and our hope by doing that is really not to guess right, but to make the time loss by any other exit spawn minimal. And unfortunately, we do lose some time. Novice Training has a ton of variants for an early level. In the first level, the key can either spawn next to the rocket, 1 room away, or 2 rooms away. Here, unfortunately, we get a key spawn 2 rooms away, which is the farthest it can be. Cap will take this time to grow 1 purple Pikmin. We grow this purple Pikmin to help us deal with the puffy blowhog in the next sublevel. Unfortunately, I didn't get the memo that he had just done that, and I grow an additional purple Pikmin myself. Not the end of the world, just not really the most efficient thing in the world. Because while we were doing that, we failed to notice the exit spawn location. And that does cost some time. So their communication obviously did not go so well, because I did not know that Cap grew that Pikmin. It means either I was not paying proper attention, or Cap did not communicate that to me. So here, unfortunately, we get a very weird spawn. He spawns right over the poison thing, which is not common, to say the very least. What we do, and you can see the purple Pikmin's dying animation is very quick here. We use our white Pikmin, who are immune to the poison, to get the key. And we notice that the exit is underground right there. So I start following the key back to spawn, leave Cap with the additional army to break open that exit. Next up in Lost Toy Box, we take advantage of luring Bulborbs a little bit in sublevel 1, and then we massively exploit sublevel 2. In the first sublevel, we save very minimal time by luring the red Bulborb over to the rocket. It saves roughly 1.5 seconds over just running over, killing the Bulborb, and taking the key. However, because we're in 2-player mode, as Cap sets up to kill him, as I set up to kill him, I apologize, Cap lures him right over to the rocket, and we collect the key. Next up, we lure an orange bulborb over a barrier to save, I think it was close to 30 or 35 seconds. It's very significant. I throw one Pikmin to wake him up. Next, I get that Pikmin the heck out of there because now he's coming over. He climbs over that wooden barrier to go attack Cap and myself. And I use my bitter spray to disable him and save significant time on that key carry. As you can see, we wind up golding the split by roughly 1.5 seconds because when I made up that split, I did not account for that small time save. Here in Creator's Garden, there's a ton of variants as well. The key is always in the fiery blowhog. However, Cap and I do not get the greatest Creator's Garden to ever have existed. Unfortunately, this is what we call terrible RNG, where there's a gate that spawns between you and the enemy with the key, and the enemy with the key is nowhere to be seen on the other side of the gate. It's not ideal, to say the least. However, we do track him right down in this far-removed corner of the map and get the key moving. I use Olimar to distract enemies that otherwise could take the Pikmin off of the key carry. And any hopes that Cap and I had of dipping under an hour for this run were unfortunately tragically crushed with this particular bit of RNG. Next up in Green Hole, we come back into contact with some bulb men, except we have to kill off their master to get them first. In the first sub-level, the key is nice and out in the open. The second sub-level, we must deal with the fiery bulblacks using red Pikmin and whatever bulbmen Cap and I can collect in the sub-level. As it does look like the two of them did spawn close together, I can't imagine that we would wind up getting 20 bulbmen. It's unfortunate that they spawn directly in front of the key area because that does slow down the carry a little bit here, and although we did lose a massive amount of Pikmin, we did gain Pikmin that are capable of attacking the enemy in the next floor. On the next floor, I calmly lure this fiery bulblacks over to the rocket, as well as see an empty alcove indicating an exit, and Cap uses the bulbmen, the red Pikmin, and a bitter spray to deal with this fiery bulblacks effectively. We use whatever nectar we can to make some flower Pikmin for the geyser. And we move on to Twilight Garden. Twilight Garden is very RNG dependent. There is a beady longlegs, or a large spider enemy, that spawns in a random location on the map. And Cap and I have to do our absolute best to get it down as quickly as we can, defeat it, and get the key into the rocket. Obviously, if the beady longlegs spawns next to the rocket, that saves significant amounts of time. Which, at this point in the run, considering there are 2 levels left, and we're 23 seconds off of our goal time, we need some good RNG. And we don't particularly get some good RNG. While this is not the worst this layout could have been, it's a little bit far. The exciting possibility of doing this run at a marathon is that the world record, while it is very impressive that two Pikmin runners got together and were able to communicate like this despite never really having played with one another, the world record can definitely be broken, and we will be trying for it in the future. But in theory, it can be broken in the marathon setting. Because Cap and I did play that fairly well, we will save some time in this split. Last but not least, we have Trampled Garden, which is a fairly mundane level to end on. It is one sub-level, the key is out in the open, and the geyser can spawn on either end of the level. It's very straightforward, and I like ending on it because it's not very stressful. It's not like ending on a level that you could potentially lose the run in. All we really do here is throw some white Pikmin at the key, and we wait on either side of the map, try to predict the exit. With the amount of stuff that has spawned on my side of the map, I have a strong feeling it's on Cap's side. However, I was incorrect. I can sleep well at night knowing that this did not cost us the hour. And that is the end of the run. Cap and I are very excited for your consideration, and thank you for taking the time to look over this video.